The first day of the school year always fills me with a unique blend of excitement and anxiety. The smell of fresh paint on the walls, the crisp pages of new textbooks, and the hum of eager chatter in the hallways create an atmosphere of promise and renewal. I find myself lost in thought as I arrange the desks in my French classroom, making sure everything is perfect for my students' arrival. Today, there's an added layer of anticipation because we have a new student joining us, Ava Thompson. As the clock ticks closer to the start of class, I glance at the door, waiting for the first signs of my students. The classroom door opens, and a flurry of students enter, their voices blending into a lively buzz. Among them, I spot Ava. She steps into the room, and my heart sinks a little. Her clothes are worn and shabby compared to the neatly dressed students around her. Her frayed edges and scuffed shoes stand in stark contrast to the polished uniforms of her peers. I give her a warm, encouraging smile as she takes her seat in the back row. The students whisper among themselves, casting curious and sometimes judgmental glances toward Ava. I take a deep breath and begin the lesson, trying to focus the class on our French vocabulary and leave the distraction of Ava's appearance behind. A few minutes into the lesson, I overhear a snippet of conversation from the group of students sitting near Ava. "Did you see her clothes? How could she have gone to Disneyland Paris with those?" One student whispers, his voice laced with disbelief. Another student, who is seated next to Ava, leans in and replies, "Maybe she's lying. I heard her talking about it, but her story doesn't match up with her clothes." I feel a pang of sympathy for Ava, whose face is flushed with embarrassment as she tries to focus on her notes. I catch her eye and give her a reassuring nod. After class, I find Ava standing by her desk, gathering her things. I approach her with a gentle smile. "Hi, Ava. How was your first day?" I ask, trying to sound as welcoming as possible. Ava looks up, her eyes bright but wary. "It was okay. Just a bit overwhelming, I guess." "I understand. It can be a lot to take in on the first day," I say. "If you ever need help with anything or just want to talk, feel free to come by after class. I'm here to support you." Ava's face softens slightly, and she nods. "Thank you, Ms. Morrow. I'll keep that in mind." As Ava leaves the classroom, I notice her walking with a slight stoop, as if she's trying to make herself smaller. My heart aches for her. I wish I could do more to ease her transition into the school and help her feel more comfortable. Later that day, I run into Emily, a fellow teacher, in the staff lounge. She's flipping through a stack of papers, preparing for her own classes. "Hey, Emily. How did your day go?" I ask, trying to shift the focus from Ava's situation. "Oh, the usual chaos," Emily replies with a tired smile. "But I heard we got a new student in your French class. Ava Thompson, right?" "Yes, that's her," I say. "She's on a scholarship, and her appearance seems to be causing a bit of tension among the other students." Emily raises an eyebrow. "Really? That's unfortunate. Kids can be so judgmental." "Exactly," I reply. "I'm trying to manage the situation as best as I can. I just hope Ava can find her place here without too much trouble." Emily nods sympathetically. "If you need any help or advice, just let me know." We've all been through our fair share of challenges with students. As Emily and I continue to chat about the new school year, my thoughts keep drifting back to Ava. I'm determined to support her and ensure that she feels welcome, no matter the challenges that lie ahead. The classroom is a cacophony of chatter as students settle into their seats for French class. Today, we're starting a new unit on French culture, and I plan to introduce the topic with a story. I hope it will engage my students and distract them from the growing tension surrounding Ava. As I enter the classroom, I find Ava already seated in the back row, her posture more relaxed than on the first day. I give her a reassuring smile and start the lesson. We discussed French landmarks and cultural highlights, setting the stage for a more interactive discussion later. Once I sense that the students are sufficiently intrigued by the topic, I decide it's time for a small group activity. I split the class into groups and asked them to discuss their ideal vacation in France, encouraging them to be creative. As the students dive into their discussions, I move around the room, listening in on their conversations and providing guidance where needed. Ava, sitting with a group of classmates, is quietly participating, her voice barely audible over the din of the classroom. I approach her group and listen in. "I would love to visit the Louvre and see the Mona Lisa," one student says enthusiastically. "I heard the food in Paris is amazing," another chimes in. "What about you, Ava? Where would you go?" Ava hesitates for a moment, then says, "I think I'd visit Disneyland Paris. It sounds like a magical place." The room goes quiet for a moment, and I notice a few students exchange skeptical glances. One of them, Jake, finally speaks up. "Did you really go to Disneyland Paris this summer, Ava? You mentioned it before, but your clothes don't really look like they've been to a fancy place like that." Ava's face reddens, and she looks down at her hands, fiddling with the edge of her notebook. I step in, sensing the discomfort. It's perfectly okay if Ava wants to share her experiences. We all have different ways of spending our time and different stories to tell. Ava takes a deep breath, clearly gathering her courage. "Yes, I did go to Disneyland Paris. My uncle took me there as part of a special trip. It was really amazing." The bell rings, signaling the end of the class period. As the students pack up, I notice Ava lingering at her desk, her face still tinged with the flush of embarrassment. I walk over to her. "Hey, Ava, how did you find the group activity?" I ask, trying to sound encouraging. "It was okay," Ava replies, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's just, some of the kids seemed doubtful about my trip." "I understand," I say gently. "Sometimes people jump to conclusions based on appearances, but that doesn't take away from the experiences you've had." Ava nods, looking slightly reassured. "Thank you, Ms. Moreau. I guess I just need to get used to it." As Ava gathers her things, another teacher, Mrs. Collins, enters the room. She's known for her friendly demeanor and often checks in with other teachers about their students. "How's it going in here, Emily?" Mrs. Collins asks with a warm smile. "Just trying to get the students engaged," I reply. "We had an interesting discussion about summer vacations." Mrs. Collins' eyes flicker towards Ava. "I heard we have a new student, Ava. How's she adjusting?" "She's doing her best," I say. "It's been a bit challenging for her, but I'm hopeful she'll settle in soon." Mrs. Collins nods sympathetically. "If you need any help or advice, just let me know. I've seen many students adjust over time." After school, I head to the teacher's lounge for a quick break. As I sip my coffee, I reflect on Ava's situation. Her story about Disneyland Paris felt genuine, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there's more to her background than meets the eye. I'm interrupted by a knock on the lounge door. It's Ava's uncle, Richard, arriving to pick up Ava. He's impeccably dressed and exudes an air of confidence. "Excuse me, Ms. Moreau," Richard says with a courteous nod. "I'm here to pick up Ava. I hope she's had a good first day." "Mr. Thompson, of course," I reply, recognizing him from the past. "Ava has been a bit shy, but she's handling things well." Richard's eyes show a flicker of recognition. "You know me?" I nod, feeling a mix of surprise and apprehension. "We've met before. It's been quite some time." Richard's face lights up with a smile that carries a hint of nostalgia. "Emily Morrow. It's been years. I didn't realize you were teaching here." "Yes, it's been a while," I say, trying to keep my composure. "It's good to see you again, Richard." Richard steps closer, his gaze intense. "I'd like to catch up sometime, if you're open to it." I'm taken aback by his unexpected proposal, and as I bid him farewell, I can't help but wonder how this reunion will impact my life and my connection with Ava. The first few weeks of the school year pass in a whirlwind of lesson plans, student interactions, and personal reflections. Ava gradually settles into her new environment, though the whispers and doubts from her classmates linger. Despite this, I can see her making efforts to engage more in class and participate actively. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, as I prepare for my final class of the day, I hear a knock on my classroom door. I open it to find Richard Thompson standing in the doorway, looking every bit as dashing as he did on our last encounter. He's holding a bouquet of vibrant flowers. "Miss Moreau," he says with a warm smile. I hope I'm not interrupting. I'm caught off guard by his visit. "Not at all, Mr. Thompson. Is everything all right?" Richard steps into the classroom, glancing around at the empty desks. "I was hoping to speak with you for a moment. I thought I'd come by before the students arrived." I gesture towards a seat by my desk. "Please, have a seat. What can I do for you?" Richard takes the offered seat and places the flowers on the desk. "I wanted to thank you for your kindness towards Ava. I know it can be challenging for a new student, and I appreciate your understanding." "I'm glad to help," I reply, feeling a mix of gratitude and curiosity. "Ava's doing well, considering everything." Richard leans forward, his expression serious. "I understand there's been some tension due to her appearance. I hope that doesn't overshadow her true potential." "It's true," I admit, "but Ava's been working hard. I think she'll find her place here." As we talk, the classroom door opens, and a student, Lily, peeks in. "Ms. Moreau, are you ready for the class?" I nod, glancing back at Richard. "Just a moment, Lily. I'll be right there." Lily's eyes widen slightly as she notices Richard. "Oh, hello. Are you a new teacher?" Richard chuckles softly. "No, I'm just a visitor. I'm here to see Ms. Moreau." Lily nods, though she looks curious. "Okay, see you in class, Ms. Moreau." As Lily leaves, I turn my attention back to Richard. "So, what brings you here today, Richard? You mentioned wanting to catch up." Richard's demeanor shifts slightly, becoming more earnest. "Yes, I'd like to talk about something more personal. I've thought a lot about our past and what we shared. I'd like to see if there's a possibility for us to reconnect." I'm taken aback by his forwardness. "That's quite a proposal. Things have changed a lot since then." Richard nods understandingly. "I realize that. I just wanted to express how much I've missed our connection and see if you might be interested in exploring it again." Before I can respond, the classroom fills with students, and the buzz of chatter fills the room. Richard rises to his feet, giving me a thoughtful look. "Perhaps we could talk more after school. I'd love to catch up and hear how you've been." I nod, feeling a mix of apprehension and intrigue. "I'd be open to that. Let's plan to meet after classes." Richard smiles, then turns and walks towards the door. "I'll see you then, Emily." After the final bell rings, signaling the end of the school day, I gather my things and prepare to meet Richard. My mind is racing with thoughts of our past and the implications of reconnecting. As I leave my classroom, I spot Richard waiting in the hallway, his demeanor relaxed. He waves as I approach. "Ready to talk?" he asks. I nod. "Yes, let's find a place to sit and catch up." We head to a nearby cafe, a cozy spot where we can talk in relative privacy. Once seated, Richard orders coffee for us both, and we settle into a conversation. "I've been meaning to ask you," Richard begins, his eyes meeting mine. "How have you been these past years? What's been going on in your life?" I take a deep breath, reflecting on the changes I've experienced. It's been a journey. I've focused on my career and found a lot of fulfillment in teaching. I'm also dealing with the usual ups and downs of life. Richard listens intently. "And what about us? Is there any chance you've thought about reconnecting?" I look at him, feeling a mix of nostalgia and uncertainty. "I've thought about it, yes, but things are different now. I'm not sure how to navigate those feelings." Richard reaches across the table, his expression sincere. "I understand. I just wanted to see if there was still something there. If not, I respect that. But if there is, I'd like to explore it with you." The sincerity in his voice touches me deeply. I realize that this unexpected visit has brought back a flood of emotions and memories. As we continue our conversation, I begin to consider the possibilities of reconnecting and the impact it could have on my life moving forward. The cafe where Richard and I decide to meet is quaint and inviting, with its warm lighting and soft, instrumental music playing in the background. I order a latte, and Richard opts for a black coffee. As we wait for our drinks, the conversation flows naturally, though a subtle tension lingers in the air. Richard leans forward, his gaze thoughtful. "So, Emily, what's been the highlight of your life recently?" I sip my latte, considering the question. Teaching at the boarding school has been incredibly fulfilling. It's challenging but rewarding to guide young minds. I feel like I'm making a difference. Richard smiles, clearly impressed. "That's wonderful to hear. I always knew you had a passion for education. I remember when we used to talk about your dreams and ambitions." I nod, a smile tugging at my lips. Yes, those were good times. It's strange to think how much has changed since then. Our conversation drifts to lighter topics, and the atmosphere becomes more relaxed. However, the conversation inevitably circles back to our past. Richard looks at me, his expression earnest. "I've been reflecting a lot on our time together. We had something special, didn't we?" I nod slowly. Yes, we did. I often think about those moments. It's hard to forget how deep our connection was. Richard's eyes soften. "I've missed you, Emily. I've missed what we had. I've realized that despite everything, I still have feelings for you. I feel a mix of emotions, nostalgia, confusion, and a hint of longing. I didn't expect this. I've moved on in many ways, but there's still a part of me that remembers what we shared." Richard reaches across the table, his hand hovering close to mine. "I understand if you need time. I just wanted to be honest about my feelings. I think about you often and wonder if there's a chance for us to rekindle what we once had." Just as I'm about to respond, the cafe's door opens, and a group of patrons enters, momentarily distracting us. We both watch as they settle into a nearby table, their conversation blending into the cafe's ambience. Richard clears his throat. "Perhaps we should take things slowly. Let's start with catching up properly and see where it leads. I don't want to rush anything." I appreciate his approach, feeling a sense of relief. "That sounds fair. I'd like to take it slow and see how things unfold. I think it's important for us to reconnect gradually." Richard nods, a relieved smile on his face. "I'm glad you feel that way. It's been a long time, and I want to respect your feelings and your life now." As we continue our conversation, we reminisce about old memories and share updates about our lives. Richard tells me about his recent business ventures and his family, while I fill him in on my work and personal experiences. After a while, the cafe starts to empty out, and the evening settles in. Richard looks at his watch and stands up, signaling that it's time to wrap up our meeting. "I've really enjoyed catching up with you, Emily," he says, offering a warm smile. "Thank you for agreeing to meet. I hope we can do this again soon." I stand up as well, feeling a mix of contentment and uncertainty. "I've enjoyed it too, Richard. Let's plan to meet again. I think it's important for us to continue this conversation." We exchange a final, lingering look before heading to the door. Richard offers a parting embrace, which I return, feeling a sense of closure and anticipation. As I watch Richard leave, I can't help but reflect on the depth of our reunion. The meeting has stirred up old feelings and left me pondering the future. I'm uncertain about where this new chapter will lead, but I'm willing to explore the possibilities. The days following my meeting with Richard are a whirlwind of emotions. Every interaction with my students and colleagues feels tinged with the undercurrent of my recent reunion. As I sit at my desk grading papers, my thoughts keep drifting back to Richard's words and the promises of a possible future together. One afternoon, I'm preparing a lesson when the classroom door opens. Eva Thompson enters, her eyes tired but resolute. She carries an old, tattered backpack, which she places on the floor before taking her seat. I notice her, as usual, looking somewhat out of place compared to her classmates, but today my concern for her is compounded by my own inner turmoil. During lunch break, I meet with a colleague, Marie, in the faculty lounge. Marie is known for her perceptive nature, and I find myself opening up to her about my feelings. Marie looks at me with a curious expression. "You seem preoccupied lately. Everything okay?" I take a deep breath, deciding to confide in her. I had a surprising reunion with someone from my past. Richard, the man I was once involved with, reappeared in my life. He's expressed interest in rekindling our relationship, and it's been unsettling. Marie's eyes widen with interest. "Richard, I remember you talking about him years ago. How did it go?" I sip my coffee, feeling the weight of my emotions. It was emotional. We talked about our past and our feelings. He's made it clear he still has strong feelings for me, and I'm not sure how to handle it. Marie leans in, her voice gentle. "That sounds like a lot to process. Are you leaning towards giving it another try, or are you unsure?" I look down at my coffee cup, struggling to articulate my feelings. I'm conflicted. On one hand, there's a part of me that feels a lingering connection and curiosity about what might be. On the other, I'm deeply committed to my current life and responsibilities. I don't want to disrupt what I've built. Marie nods thoughtfully. "It's important to listen to your heart, but also consider what's best for you in the long run. Maybe you need some time to really think about what you want." Later that evening, I sit in my small apartment, staring out the window at the dimming sky. My phone buzzes, and I see a message from Richard, asking if we can meet again. I feel a pang of anxiety mixed with excitement. The next day, I meet with Richard at a nearby park. We find a secluded bench under a canopy of trees. Richard's expression is earnest, and I can see the hope in his eyes. "Emily, I've been thinking a lot about our last meeting." Richard begins, his voice steady. "I want to be clear about my intentions. I truly care about you, and believe that we could have something meaningful again." I take a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "Richard, I appreciate your honesty and the feelings you shared. I've been reflecting on our past and what it means for me now. It's just, there's so much to consider. I have responsibilities and a life that's stable, and I'm not sure if diving back into our past is the right choice." Richard's face falls slightly, but he quickly recovers. "I understand. I don't want to pressure you. I just needed you to know how I feel. I'm willing to give you the space you need to figure things out." I nod, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. "Thank you, Richard. I need some time to sort through my emotions and think about what's best for me. I hope you understand." Richard stands up and offers a reassuring smile. "Of course. Take all the time you need. I'll be here whenever you're ready to talk." As I watch Richard walk away, I'm left alone with my thoughts. The complexity of my emotions is overwhelming. I feel a deep sense of nostalgia for the past, but I'm also aware of the stability and purpose I've built in my current life. The choice before me is daunting, and I know that whatever decision I make will have a profound impact on my future. The park's serenity contrasts sharply with my inner turmoil, and I take a moment to reflect on what truly matters to me. The weight of my decision about Richard grows heavier with each passing day. My interactions with him have left me feeling conflicted and emotionally raw. To gain some clarity, I decide to have a heart-to-heart conversation with Ava, who, despite her challenges, has shown remarkable resilience and maturity. I believe that sharing my thoughts with her might help me gain a new perspective. One afternoon after class, I find Ava sitting alone in the school's garden, reading a book. I approach her quietly, not wanting to startle her. "Ava," I say softly, taking the seat beside her on the wooden bench. "Mind if we talk for a bit?" Ava looks up from her book, her expression guarded but curious. "Sure, Ms. Blake. What's up?" I hesitate, then decide to be open. "I've been dealing with some personal issues lately, and could use someone to talk to. I know you've been through a lot yourself, so I thought maybe you'd understand." Ava closes her book and looks at me with a mix of concern and empathy. Of course. What's going on? I take a deep breath, feeling the weight of my emotions. I recently reconnected with someone from my past, someone I used to care about deeply. He's expressed an interest in rekindling our relationship, but I'm struggling with whether or not to pursue it. I'm torn between my past feelings and my current life. Ava nods thoughtfully, her eyes reflecting a depth of understanding beyond her years. That sounds really complicated. Sometimes it's hard to know what the right thing to do is, especially when the past and present collide like that. I smile faintly, appreciative of her insight. Yes, exactly. I feel like I'm caught between two worlds. I'm committed to my work and my students, and I've built a stable life. But there's a part of me that wonders if there's something I'm missing by not exploring this connection. Ava leans back, her gaze thoughtful. When I came here, I felt like I was leaving behind everything I knew. It's been hard, and I've had to adjust and find my place. Maybe the best way to decide is to think about what makes you truly happy and what aligns with your values and goals. I nod, considering her words. That's good advice, Ava. I suppose I need to take some time to reflect on what's truly important to me and how this decision fits into that. Ava looks at me with a small, encouraging smile. Sometimes, talking things out can help you see things more clearly. And sometimes, it's okay not to have all the answers right away. Just make sure you're doing what feels right for you. I smile gratefully at her. Thank you, Ava. Your perspective means a lot to me. It's funny. Sometimes it feels like the people who are supposed to be learning from us end up teaching us more than we expected. Ava chuckles softly. I guess that's how life works. We all learn from each other. Later that evening, I sit at my kitchen table, reflecting on my conversation with Ava. Her words resonate with me, and I feel a renewed sense of clarity. I realize that I need to prioritize what truly makes me happy and align my choices with my values. As I contemplate my next steps, I'm reminded of the importance of listening to my own heart and trusting myself to make the right decision. With a newfound sense of purpose, I decide to reach out to Richard and set up another meeting. I want to have an honest conversation about our future and see where it leads. For now, I feel a bit more confident in my ability to navigate this complex situation and find a resolution that aligns with my true self. The decision to meet Richard again weighs heavily on me. After much reflection and a heartfelt conversation with Ava, I'm ready to approach this reunion with clarity and an open mind. I want to understand where Richard stands and what this encounter might mean for both of us. The setting for our meeting is a quiet cafe downtown, a place I chose for its calm atmosphere. I arrive early, taking a seat by the window and sipping on a cappuccino while I wait. The cafe's cozy ambience contrasts sharply with the turmoil I feel inside. Richard arrives precisely on time, his presence still commanding but less intimidating now that I've had time to process my feelings. He looks around and spots me, a warm smile spreading across his face as he approaches. Emily, he greets, his voice carrying a familiar lilt. It's good to see you. I return the smile, though I feel a flutter of nerves. Hi, Richard. Thanks for meeting me. We exchange pleasantries as the waitress brings over menus. After ordering, Richard looks at me with an expression of genuine curiosity. How have you been? I take a moment to collect my thoughts before responding. I've been doing well, adjusting to the new school year and focusing on my students. It's been a busy time, but fulfilling. Richard nods, his gaze thoughtful. I'm glad to hear that. And how are things with Ava? I smile at the mention of Ava. She's adjusting well. Despite the challenges she's faced, she's proving to be a strong and resilient student. Richard's eyes soften with admiration. She sounds remarkable. It's good to hear she's finding her place. The conversation takes a more personal turn as our food arrives. Richard leans forward slightly, his tone earnest. I've been thinking a lot about us and what we had. When I reached out to you, it was because I've missed you, and the connection we shared. But I also understand that life has moved on for both of us. I nod, feeling the weight of his words. I've thought a lot about that too. It's clear that we had something special, but I've also built a life here that I'm committed to. I'm not sure how to reconcile these feelings. Richard looks contemplative, his eyes meeting mine with sincerity. I understand. I don't want to disrupt your life or cause any additional stress. My intention in reconnecting was to see if there was a possibility to explore what we had, but I also respect your decisions and the life you've created. I appreciate his honesty and the way he's approached this situation with sensitivity. I'm grateful for that, Richard. It's just that this is a complex situation. I need to consider how pursuing something with you fits into my current life and responsibilities. Richard reaches across the table, his gesture gentle. If it's any consolation, I want you to be happy, Emily. Whether that means rekindling what we had or moving forward separately, I support your choice. I just wanted to make sure you knew how I felt. I take a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief and uncertainty. Thank you, Richard. Your support means a lot. I need to take some time to think things through and figure out what's best for me. I hope you understand. Richard smiles, a hint of sadness in his eyes. Of course. Take all the time you need. I'll be here if you want to talk more. As our meeting concludes, we part ways with a sense of mutual respect and understanding. The cafe, once a backdrop for my anxieties, now feels like a place of resolution. I leave with a clearer sense of what I need to do next and a renewed perspective on my own desires and priorities. In the days following, I reflect on our conversation and the impact it has had on me. I feel more grounded in my decisions and more confident in navigating the complexities of my personal life. This new perspective allows me to approach the future with a sense of peace and clarity, knowing that whatever path I choose, it will be the right one for me.